Hey everyone, Carl here with Littleroot Lessons, bringing you a deep dive featuring Mimikyu this week. Mimikyu was our requested Pokemon this past week, and I figured it'd be good to cover this Pokemon that came in second 2 times before that anyway, so if it didn't win on Friday, I was probably going to look at covering it on Wednesday, but instead it won. We covered Mewtwo last time. Go check out that video there. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications for when new videos go live, leave a comment down below, leave a like, all that fun YouTube stuff, and let's just get right into Mimikyu here. So Mimikyu has a bunch of different hats it can wear. Being a ghost type, it has a lot of cool utility moves, and having a decent attack stat and a decent speed stat mean that it can actually kind of be an offensive attacker if it wants to be, but it's best known for being one of the best Trick Room setters in the format. Being ghost type means that you're immune to fake out, and most of the time you can just slap Mental Herb on Mimikyu and never have to worry about taunt. So like the only way you're stopping a Mimikyu taunt is to either A, ignore a disguise and blow it up, or B, run double taunt and double taunt into it. Beyond being the Trick Room setter though, like I said, it has great physical. It's a great physical attacker. Fairy and Ghost are very good typings when it comes to being offensive, as it hits a lot of the format for neutral damage in some way. It also can be a decent support outside of just Trick Room with things like Will-O-Wisp or Taunt. Curse is another option and things like that. Or you can just kind of blend them all together and play both at the same time. Very common Mimikyu sets are things with like Trick Room and Shadow Sneak, but also Will-O-Wisp or Curse or Thunder Wave, and you even get things like Wood Hammer, which is really cool. So Mimikyu has a lot of different hats that it can wear on a team at any given time. Mimikyu's history in the format saw a ton of play in post-Series 7, not post-Series 7, that's a typo, it's pre-Series 7. Mainly doing the Trick Room thing. It was super common alongside Snorlax early on. As the format evolved, we saw it be a decent Trick Room setter for Trick Room teams of that nature that weren't playing like Katarine. And it's actually played a pivotal role in some Calyrex Ice teams in Series 8, getting the pet named Mimirex teams, being the Mimikyu and Calyrex Ice combo. It was a fairly popular archetype back then. This likely means that Series 11 will see the rise of Mimikyu again, paired with that powerful restricted. Also things that just Mimikyu answers really well. Mimikyu answers opposing Trick Room really well because it has a fast taunt and can turn off Trick Room if it needs to. You have access to moves like Shadow Sneak to activate weakness policies, so overall it's just a very good Dynamax partner. And as we get into some builds here, you'll kind of see what Mimikyu excels at and shines at doing. When we think about common partners for Mimikyu, we think about Trick Room. That's what the first set here is. These are from Series 10, which all of these Pokemon are seeing much less play than they did in Series 8, mainly due to the fact that Trick Room isn't as popular in Series 10. However, you can see that 32% of teams are playing with Calyrex Ice, 11% are playing with Torkoal and Ferrothorn. These bulky Trick Room Pokemon are very good partners for Mimikyu, especially like if you think about Torkoal and Ferrothorn. Both resist Steel, so they're both good switch-in pivots for Mimikyu. As for Calyrex Ice likes to do weakness policy things. You Shadow Sneak your Calyrex Ice, get to do the weakness policy thing. You can set up Trick Room, they both can carry it. It gets to play that mind game of whatever, so it's a really good partner alongside Calyrex Ice. Another weird interaction that we're seeing in Series 10 though is like Calm Mind Kyogre. Paired with with an Amoonguss and an Incineroar, you kind of play this Trick Room Kyogre team with Mimikyu, while Mimikyu kind of sits there and just kind of controls the speed tiers for you while you're setting up a Calm Mind with your Kyogre. Amoonguss makes a good pairing as well. A lot of the old redirection that we used to have, things like Indeedee and Togekiss, aren't as common. So it's kind of interesting to see that Amoonguss is like the premier redirector now, being the grass poison type. It can redirect those poison type attacks away, or the steel type attacks, and keep Mimikyu safe. When we look at the metagame breakdown here, we see that Trick Room obviously is the #1 played move. Again, that's what Mimikyu is best at, especially when you pair that with Mental Herb over here at 67%. It's just what most common Mimikyus do. When we look at the rest of these moves here, we see things like Shadow Sneak, Play Rough, Will-O-Wisp, Taunt. These are the moves you'll see the most often on Mimikyu. And as we kind of trickle down here into the under 20%ers here, Wood Hammer and Shadow Claw were very, very common on physical Mimikyus back in the day. When Mimikyu was carrying Life Orb and being an offensive threat, you would see things like Wood Hammer to deal with Lapras, or Shadow Claw to maybe help pick up a Dusclops KO, and things like that. Protect isn't super duper common, especially since Mimikyu has Disguise. You're guaranteed to take one hit no matter what, unless they have Mold Breaker. Which that's a whole other can of worms we'll get into later. But a lot of what Mimikyu does is plays around with its Disguise and tries to get at least its one needed move off. In this case, Trick Room, or sometimes Will-O-Wisp, sometimes Thunder Wave, Shadow Sneak, things like that. Last here is Curse. Curse is at 9%, and this is something we don't normally see in Pokemon tutorial much, mainly due to the fact that you can just switch out and remove it, but it played a bigger role in Dynamax, mainly due to the fact that there was a whole lot less switching. So Mimikyu in Dynamax formats tends to run Curse to kind of counteract a lot of the incidental damage that you would deal to Mimikyu. Mimikyu gets to deal that back in the form of Curse to your Dynamax Pokemon. When you're looking at common items from Mimikyu, like I mentioned, Mental Herb is number 1 here. Life Orb and Expert Belt are there to be offensive ish Mimikyus looking to deal a lot of damage but still have some flexibility to use utility moves when it comes time. Safety Goggles is kind of interesting here. With the rise, like I said, of Amoonguss and sleep powder things, Mimikyu would run into issues of being put to sleep. So having Safety Goggles on Mimikyu can actually play around that and let you still get your Trick Room off. And Spell Tag here again, it's just random damage, 2%er, not very, very common. Just boosts your ghost type attacks, maybe like puts Shadow Sneak as a roll to KO Calyrex Shadow or something like that. So it's just small things to think about there. When you're looking to build with Mimikyu, it needs a little bit of help as an attacker, but it excels when it's treated as support. You do so much work when you're just carrying Shadow Sneak and Will-O-Wisp and Thunder Wave and Trick Room and Taunt and things like that. Whereas your offensive side is a little bit weaker, but it allows you to catch players off guard. Not everybody expects Play Rough, not everybody expects Wood Hammer, but it can leave you weak to Intimidate, especially if you're playing with like Calyrex Ice. Both of these guys are weak to Intimidate, and it kind of hurts your overall damage output. So remember to have ways to beat Intimidate when you're team building with Mimikyu. And lastly here, Mimikyu's Disguise lets it be the perfect switch-in target. It will take 10% from any attack no matter what, and even though it's a ghost and is normally a good switch-in target anyway, trying to avoid fighting and normal type moves, things like that, the Disguise just makes it the perfect switch-in, the perfect pivot. A lot of the times you'll see Mimikyu as a lead, but there's times where you can just have Mimikyu in the back and switch it in, and easily take that whatever max move in the case of Series 11, or the Water Spout in the case of Series 10, or Ice whatever, or Glacial Lance, or Precipice Blades, or whatever. That one big damage move that your opponent's trying to get off, you can easily switch Mimikyu into it and gain the advantage into your favor by only taking 10%. When we look at Mimikyu's base stats here and movesets, overall its attack and special defense are in speed are like its top stats there. Defense is at 80, which is fine, but being paired with that 55 HP, we would like to see that defense a little bit higher. Base 55 is not very good. Max HP on Mimikyu is 162, so you can get to like 4 substitutes pretty easily if you go almost max HP to 161. That's 244 investment. So if you're thinking about things like that, thinking about things like Curse and stuff like that, you'll get the most out of your mileage that way by going to certain HP stats. However, this 96 base speed means that max speed Mimikyu is actually fairly fast. We don't think about it being a fast Pokemon too terribly often, but 252 without a nature investment is 148. That's fairly fast in this format for a Trick Room setter. So if you're thinking about ways to build Mimikyu, attacking Mimikyu can actually be like a 252 set. And when we think about like overall sets like that, Mental Herb is the first thing that comes to mind with Trick Room. These are more bulky sets, things that lean defensively or special defensively, whichever way, especially in Series 10 with Zacian being a formidable opponent, along with just the slew of other steel types. I remember in Draft League, I had to do calcs for my Mimikyu to where I would survive Gyro Ball from Bronzong and whatnot to keep it alive, and it was a nightmare because I ended up having to slap Iron Ball on it because you're so naturally fast but have no defensive bulk. So this set here is max HP, 236 defense, 20 special defense. We carry Shadow Sneak to activate a policy on our Calyrex. We have Will-O-Wisp to burn opposing physical attackers, things like Zacian and all that stuff. And we also are carrying Curse. Curse is going to be a little bit of a weaker move in Series 10, but as we migrate to Series 11, it'll be a little bit better because people will be less likely to switch and lose all their boosts. This next set here is more of a blast of the past. We saw this a lot in Series 5 and 6 a little bit. Fast offensive Mimikyu, looking to not play a Trick Room game, just looking to attack and deal damage. Woodhammer was really good into a lot of the bulky waters at the time. Not everybody was expecting it. Play Rough, fairy type stab, really good. Shadow Claw would help you fight opposing Dragapult because you would take the hit and then Shadow Claw them back. Whatever they were doing with that. Usually they were playing Phantom Force, so you could just like hit something one time and either that or protect and avoid getting your disguise popped, eat the Phantom Force, and then Shadow Claw them back. And the last set here is something we see a lot in Draft League but I thought it would be kind of cool to bring this tech into the forefront of VGC. Keyberry. Keyberry's going to boost your defense one stage when you take physical damage. When you take any damage. And Disguise, notably, will activate your Keyberry. So once you take your hit, you get to activate Keyberry, your defense goes to +1, and you get to become this bulky Mimikyu that can do Phantom Force things if you need to kind of get out of dodge a little bit. You're also carrying Baby Doll Eyes and Will-O-Wisp to have different ways to impact physical attackers. Will-O-Wisp, obviously, for those that have clear body, Baby Doll Eyes for those that don't. Notable fact, Baby Doll Eyes has +1 priority, so you will always go ahead of most of your physical attackers that you see. And then you still are carrying Trick Room. Even though you have a little bit of speed investment, you're still slow enough in most formats where Trick Room is fine. Even at 0 speed, that 4 speed investment is not going to matter too much. When you're looking to beat up a Mimikyu, Mimikyu does have weaknesses to Ghost and Steel, but you'll need to break that Disguise to take it out. That Disguise will block it and deal 10% of Mimikyu's HP to itself. Definitely need to look at breaking that Disguise before you try and double into a Mimikyu like that. And being a ghost type, you can't stop it normally with Fake Out, or if they're carrying Mental Herb, you can't really taunt into it. So you need to find unique ways to get around that Trick Room, or to undo it, essentially. Having your own Trick Room is one good way to get around it, being able to reset the speed tiers and redo the Trick Room and run it back over. Another good way is if they do have Mental Herb, you can taunt on turn 1 and then Encore on turn 2 and make them redo the Trick Room to change the speed tiers back. Another cool trick is double taunt, like I mentioned earlier. If you taunt once and then taunt it again, you'll be able to get through that Mental Herb that way. And then the other big option is just blowing it up with like Terravolt, Turbo Blaze, Mold Breaker, the Gigantamax moves from Gmax, Cinderace, Inteleon, and Rillaboom. The things that ignore abilities will ignore Disguise and let you just blow up Mimikyu. Like I mentioned, it's not very bulky naturally, so being able to get through that Disguise without having to break it can be really big. And Mimikyu could struggle offensively if hit with an Intimidate. Definitely keep an eye out for that. If you Intimidate that Mimikyu a couple times, it's not going to do any kind of damage. Base 90 is not very high, and being able to reduce that down to almost nothing if it's got no investment into it is going to probably secure you the win. I can't talk today, guys. Sorry. To wrap up on Mimikyu, Mimikyu offers a lot in terms of utility, and its Disguise ability means that can be hard to take out on turn 1. Like I said, Mimikyu excels at being the Trick Room setter. With that Mental Herb, it's hard to get around that, so you're going to have to come up with unique ways to beat up a Mimikyu if that is something you are struggling against. When trying to play with offensive Mimikyu, definitely be aware that you are very weak to Intimidate unless your Trick Room partner or whatever your team, the rest of your team around it, doesn't have to worry about that too much. Big ones that come to mind are things like the Kyogre Calm Mind thing. That one's a big one that's not weak to Intimidate. Think about Torkoal. Torkoal's a good Trick Room mon that isn't weak to Intimidate and can kind of just blow through a lot of the opposing Pokemon, leaving the Intimidator to kind of just sit there and falter. Other special attackers that I could think of are like Hatterene and Didi. Amoonguss is one as well. So just having that special attacker can help balance out your team and not leave it so weak to Intimidate. And like I mentioned, beware Mold Breaker, Turbo Blaze, Terravolt, all those other moves that ignore abilities, as they will blow right through your disguise and leave your Mimikyu just gone and dusted. A lot of those G-Max moves will be coming back in Series 11, so you'll definitely have to be aware of that stuff. I know Reshiram is going to become popular again. Mold Breaker is going to be around again, probably just in general for a couple Pokemon. I know Terravolt, even on Zekrom, is going to be somewhat popular again, so definitely be on the lookout for those kind of things and make sure to protect your Mimikyu the best you can. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for hanging out and listening to me ramble about Mimikyu today. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. Handles are there on screen, at LLessons, at MrMissouri25, at MusicalVGC. Check out the Discord. Community Discord is great. We talk about VGC, we talk about Unite, we talk about football, basketball, whatever you want to talk about. There's probably a channel for it. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button, do all the fun YouTube stuff, leave a comment down below who you want to see me cover next week. I'm probably going to look at getting away from restricted, so we'll probably have something new on Wednesday for everyone. And make sure to have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world, and we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.